Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Bullion. Our guest today is JP Cortez. JP is the executive director at the Sound Money Defense League. Welcome back, JP.
Hey, Ivan, good to be back with you.
Yeah, great to have you on. I wanted to bring you on and talk about, everything about what Sound Money Defense League is working on for silver and gold, for Sound Money, and of course, all the excitement right now. Last time we spoke, silver and of course, gold was a lot lower than they are right now. What are your thoughts on precious metals? What is happening? What is happening with this breakout?
Well, it's kind of funny, Ivan. I think last time we spoke, I said something at the end about, Ivan, I'll talk to you again when gold is at 4,000. And, it
Yeah.
was a little bit of a cheeky prediction, but here we are marching our way towards 4,000 and beyond. I think what we have here is the perfect storm. It's a perfect storm of conditions that really brings the price of gold to life. What we have is a depreciating dollar whose value is being zapped away, purchasing power depleting every day, so people are losing confidence in it. You have countries all around the world talking about finding alternatives to the United States dollar. You have central banks stockpiling and hoarding gold at a rate not seen in decades because they're all de-dollarizing. They're all moving away from the dollar as a reserve asset, as a final settlement currency when they can. And so now we're seeing all of these things obviously is a massive driver for the price of gold because as it's happening in real time, the entire world, states, individuals, and nations alike are all rediscovering the value of politically neutral, non-inflatable money. And so we see that obviously in the price of gold, the price of silver at two. And the exciting thing about silver is that, silver typically lags behind. So with gold running the way it is, you have a lot of excitement. There's a lot of reason to look at silver and say, wow, on a chart, obviously it's incredible to look at. You've got a massive head and shoulders. And, as if you're thinking about how it typically lags behind gold and gold with this gold uprising, I think we're going to see a dramatic potentially increase in the price of silver, on top of the fact that it's also an industrial metal, with there's a massive structural deficit here of above ground ounces and more than ever before, we're turning to electric vehicles, to solar, and to all of these things that need silver to operate. So I think, as a question of the investment thesis, gold and silver, there's reason to be bullish yet still in both of these. This rally is not over.
Hello, my silver and gold bugs. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the video. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Back to the video. What is Sound Money Defense League working on right now? Like I know there's in the past 2, 3 years, you guys have made a lot of progress. Last time we spoke too, we were talking about the vaults, and we were talking about is there actual gold at Fort Knox? What's happening with making gold legal tender in other states that aren't? Any progress on any of these fronts?
I'm happy to say that, yes, there's been an immense amount of progress on this front. We started the Sound Money Defense League in 2014. So now, nearly a dozen years later, we're finding more and more states that are actively pursuing these types of policies. Just in 2025, there were more than 30 states that introduced legislation to, like you said, remove sales tax on gold and silver purchases, remove capital gains tax on the sale of gold and silver, to reaffirm them as constitutional money, to establish multi-million dollar physical reserves, gold reserves for the state on their balance sheet, and much, much more. So at the state level, we're having a tremendous amount of success with more and more states passing this legislation. But Ivan, like you said, what we talked about last time continues to be relevant because unfortunately for the United States government, this story about Fort Knox and America's gold holdings is not going away. So what we saw last time over the summer when Representative Massey introduced the Gold Reserve Transparency Act, there was a lot of buzz at the time, and that seems to have quieted down now. But I'm actually very excited to say that I've spoken to members of Congress, and I know that this issue is not over, and we're expecting more legislation on this front in Congress here very shortly. So this is not something that can be distracted by the issue of the day. More and more Americans and nations all around the world, both adversaries and allies, are looking around and saying, wait, we don't know that the United States gold holdings are even what they say they are. More and more countries are talking about repatriating their gold, taking them home out of U.S. vaults to their own homes for their safekeeping. So this is a question that needs to be answered, and I'm happy to say that we're working with members of Congress to make sure that that's the case. That is the most recent probably federal legislation that is going to come up that we've been working on is that one again. But another thing that project that we've been working on lately that I think is really interesting is that, for a long time now, lawmakers have been increasingly concerned about our reliance on the financial infrastructure here in the United States. There's so much gold concentration in New York and in that tiny sector of the country. And that's because of antiquated rules. For a long time, because of CME rules, because of these old regulations, the America's gold holdings to be approved in COMEX depository contracts, in order to qualify a depository for this kind of transaction, they would have to be within 100 or I think 150 miles of New York. That
Okay.
was based on an old rule, I believe, that had to do with horse riding. In order to, you can only be so far away. So how long does it take a horse by horseback and with gold on its back? How long does it take it to reach New York? And that determined how big that range could be away from New York. And that obviously doesn't make sense. Lawmakers here in the United States were smart enough to move at least America's gold holdings from the edges, from the borders of the country into the interior. That's what Fort Knox was. That was the whole idea, moving it safer because it is a huge, massive risk to keep it at the corner of the country. And so these financial hubs, people, are looking at New York saying this is a financial hub, this is where it needs to be. And it doesn't need to be that way. We've seen before, a black swan event, a hurricane, something like COVID, some sort of natural disaster. There are all of these dislocations that happen in the gold market. We've seen it through COVID. We've seen it through these recent tariff oscillations. It makes sense to make the United States more resilient, to make the financial infrastructure more resilient,
Right.
and to serve the entire western half of the country that doesn't have an eligible depository for these transactions. So it makes a lot of sense to expand and hopefully facilitate the introduction and the growth of these depository services more spread out throughout the country. That's another thing we're working on, and we're hoping to get federal legislation on that. We will have federal legislation on that introduced here shortly.
There's about $15 trillion worth of physical gold in the world sitting there costing money rather than being used. Is just absolutely insane. Monetary Metals is bringing gold back into the financial world, putting gold to productive use right now. The problem with gold, of course, in physical form is that it's heavy, it's cumbersome, it's not particularly easy to ship, and it costs money to store in a protected manner. This platform Monetary Metals created is a proven concept and allows gold to be put to productive use. So instead of sitting there costing you money, it's actually in use earning you money.
Learn how you can earn 2 to 5% in our leasing program and how accredited investors can earn up to 12% on silver paid in silver. This advertisement is not investment or financial advice. Minimum investment applies.
What do you think the motive is for them not doing an audit in so long? Like, what are they hiding?
That's the $1 million question. They did an audit. Most recent, the one that they did were 50 or 60 years ago. And even that was a made-for-TV movie where they brought some cameras in, they let lawmakers hold the gold, and they put the gold away, and they walked out, and they said, look, it's all there. But of course, anyone in the auditing space or in the depository space knows that that's not what audits are. Audits are not
Right.
a one and done affair. This is a continuous thing. And the reality is there's a lot of misinformation out there on the audits that quote unquote do take place. The audits that are taking place today. So when Secretary Bessent goes on TV and he says, no, I know the audits are done at Fort Knox. I've seen the audits. I know they happen. When he says that, he's not talking about actual audits. He's talking about a schedule of the seals of the audits. He's talking about checking the locks on the doors instead of opening the door to make sure that the contents that are said to be inside are actually there.
Right.
That is not how an audit is done. In a private depository, that would trigger investigations, potentially arrests. This is not the way a diligent, upstanding, prudent depository operates, and the United States has operated that way for decades now. So these quote-unquote conspiracy theorists, these people who are demanding answers about Fort Knox, these aren't crazy people. The reason they're doing this is because the United States government has been completely frivolous about any attempt to actually answer any of these questions. And now, whether they like it or not, we're demanding that answer through congressional acts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's concerning you right now, JP, whether it's in the precious metals world, geopolitically, financially, do you think we're hitting a debt bubble or we're already in a debt bubble? What's concerning you right now? What do you have your eye on?
I think there are a lot of reasons, frankly, to be concerned because the economy is showing a lot of signs of stress. You can look as simply at home rate purchases cooling. You can look at Americans being strapped under more credit card debt than any time in history. These are not signs of a healthy economy. Frankly, you could even look at the massive increase in the rise of gold prices as a sign that something is massively amiss in the
Yeah.
economy. So there are so many signs of pressure here. And now you have what the Federal Reserve will almost definitely be cutting rates. So we can expect more inflation here soon. What I'm concerned about is the American, the person that's already on the poverty line, struggling to make ends meet, struggling to afford basic necessities, food, housing, medicine, transportation. And by virtue of government policy, intentional government policy, these people are having a harder time affording all of these things that they need to live. And it doesn't have to be this way. This speaks to the importance of restoring sound money and why it's crucial that honest weights and measures govern the monetary system that we live under. So that's what I'm looking at, and looking at
Yeah.
more and more ways to re-implement and to reintroduce gold and silver into this system at the individual level, at the corporate level, at the state level, at the federal level, and then internationally as well.
Yeah, absolutely, JP. Like the financial uncertainty that we're in as a society is it gets crazier and crazier by the day. But JP, I want to thank you so much for coming down and speaking to the silver and the gold community. Before you go, though, I really want them to connect with you. I'm going to put your links in the description below, but where can they find you?
I appreciate that, Ivan. You can find us at soundmoneydefense.org. You can find us on Twitter at soundmoney or X, excuse me, at soundmoneydef, or my handle is at JP Cortez 27. I encourage everyone to navigate to our website. On there, you'll find a form. I encourage everyone to sign up for our mailing list. We ask for your email address and your zip code. The reason we do that is because we segment our mailing list by zip code so that when there's a project, a legislative gold and silver tax bill or physical reserve bill or some sort of legislative measure in your state, you will get action alerts. We'll send you the
That's
name
pretty
of the
cool.
people to contact. We'll send you email addresses, phone numbers, even a pre-written message in most cases. So we make it super easy to participate. And citizen participation in the legislative process is literally what makes it go. It's the most powerful tool that we have trying to affect legislation. So I encourage everyone, sign up for the list. If you want to see these gold and silver laws brought to your state, I encourage you to pick up here and fight alongside us to restore sound money.
Absolutely. JP, it's such a huge pleasure having you on. As always, as the market develops and all the craziness in the world continues, would really love to have you back on in the future.
I'm looking forward to chatting again, Ivan. This time at $4,000 an ounce, I'm sure.
It's coming. I could feel it. Talk to you soon, JP.
So yeah.